everybody, welcome back. My name is Elise and this is 10 to Life, where we talk all things true crime. If you are brand new stopping by for the first time, welcome, and I hope you enjoy today's case video. If you haven't subscribed yet and you enjoy what you hear, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button below and also show your support for the channel by giving this video a thumbs up. And for you returning subscribers, you already know the deal. I don't need to school you on it. You know what it is we do here. So today we are going to be talking about the ongoing case of missing 7-year-old Harmony Montgomery and the newest revelations about the search, the newest revelations about her father Adam's record and new suspicion and horrific crimes. We're going to talk about Kayla's role in some of this and now new details that are emerging in that. We're going to talk about it all. So smash that like button and let's get into it.
10 to Life with Elise starts right now.
So as I mentioned, my name is Elise and this is 10 to Life. Today we are going to be talking about all of those updates in the case of Harmony Montgomery, the missing 7-year-old little girl. Now there have been a lot of new details surfacing over the last few days, the last week, so I'm gonna just throw it all into this video to give you guys the most accurate, updated information. And if you aren't that familiar with the case, that is okay. You can head to the Harmony Montgomery playlist and get fully caught up before you watch this video. So on my last video, I believe the last one I did was regarding the property search. I think so, but we talked a little bit about what that property search entailed, what results it yielded, a lot of suspicion and what I believe took place in that house and may have happened to Harmony. And we're starting to get little drips and drabs of new information. So let's jump right into it. So recently the FBI searched that home in New Hampshire where Harmony Montgomery was once living with her father and with her stepmother Kayla. And we saw this search taking place. It was over multiple days. They had tarps set up, tents set up, there were buckets everywhere. It was law enforcement, the FBI. I mean, and I'm sure we were hopeful that they would discover something. Unfortunately, as promising as it looked, they ended up packing up shop, closing down all of the tents and everything, and they didn't release any information as to any evidence that they did find. However, now new statements are coming to light, and I do believe they did find something, and we're going to talk about that today. Now let's start with the search for Harmony. I think all of us can at this point agree that we believe her father Adam and possibly even her stepmother Kayla had something to do with this. I haven't really seen much in the comments of anybody thinking otherwise, so I think we're all in agreement on that, right? Recently, a retired police chief spoke out, and he says that the search for Harmony is difficult, but that it's not impossible, saying that he believes that the trail to finding Harmony runs through Adam and Kayla Montgomery, which we all believe as well. And right now, we know that Adam and Kayla are both in jail. Now, I personally believe, and I've said it on this channel before too, I believe that Kayla is cooperating. I believe that she is the one that sent law enforcement to that property for that multi-day search. I think that she is potentially flipping on Adam in effort to strike a deal for herself, whether that's a lesser sentence or immunity. I truthfully believe that, not only because it seems like it would be something she would do to save her own skin, but also because in some of those images that we saw of law enforcement when they first entered the property, there was a woman in a gray hoodie that appeared to me to look like Kayla. It didn't look like any official law enforcement who would be dressed, that casually. So I've been saying that I think that she has been involved and cooperating from the start. And what's interesting is because that search, even whether she led them there or not, it yielded no results. There was no sign of Harmony. But the police chief did say that it is possible that the search did in fact turn up forensic evidence of a crime or evidence of someone trying to clean something up. Now, this immediately piqued my interest because we know that they were absolutely doing an extensive search in that property, in that backyard. We also knew that there was that possibility of those bleach stains on the floor on the inside of the house. We then also know that there was a call to that house once it was abandoned at the end of, the end of 2019 into 2020, and I believe it was January 11th, 2020. I'll have to go back, it's in my other video, where there was a call made to the house where law enforcement showed up and Adam had recently been there and left the door wide open to air out the odor, whether that odor be from the bleach stains that could have happened from a potential cleanup on the floor. Whether that odor stemmed from something decomposing, we don't know. But I think it is interesting that they're saying that it may have turned up forensic evidence that is indicative of a crime being cleaned up, because that would also make sense as to why they went to this property to search. The cadaver dogs hitting a scent possibly, then digging in the backyard, and Harmony was of course not found. Maybe there was no weapon found, maybe there was no blood found, but maybe they did find that forensic evidence of the cleanup. And at that point, then you have to start applying pressure, in my opinion, to Kayla, to Adam, to see who's going to flip first and share the information as to what was cleaned up. The police chief and FBI officials have also said that establishing a timeline for when Harmony disappeared is critical. And that's something that we did on my most recent video, I believe, where I just kind of outlined the full timeline. I put together an image for you guys to see. So if you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. I'll link it in here. But that is where we're going to find the answers, establishing a concrete, detailed timeline of all of the events surrounding Harmony's disappearance. And they say it's very important to try and narrow down the exact time the loss occurred, when she was last seen by anyone. There are only so many places they could have gone and been. Law enforcement now is going to try and investigate all of those places and all of those people that they came into contact with, and see if there's any potential to find little Harmony out there still, or at least what happened to her at the very least. And so officials are saying that Adam and Kayla's cell phone activity, their emails, and their social media accounts will help the investigator team pinpoint exactly their whereabouts around the time Harmony was stated to have last been seen. And this hopefully will yield to give them results as far as providing new areas for them to go and search, whether it's for remains, God forbid, or for more evidence to turn up. The police chief also said something about these people who may have information about Harmony. And he says, people say things in the world of drugs and narcotics and criminal associates that they don't say to others. And sometimes it takes some motivation for those people to come forward. So if I was in charge of investigating this case, my narcotics detectives would be working with people involved in that trade who might have interacted with these folks and see if there's any information that they can come forward with that is helpful. And that's something we also talked about in one of these videos, because we were talking about the reward fund, which at that time, I believe it was a little less than 100,000, and now it's near 150,000. And something I had mentioned is that's a reward fund that you want to publicize and market to the masses, because these people, whether they're criminals, whether they're drug addicts, whether they just run with those crowds, these people, I would imagine, are highly motivated by money, whether that's to get their next fix, to pay their rent, to do whatever it may be. I mean, everybody's motivated by money, I guess, in some regard, but this specific pocket of people that Adam and Kayla used to run with, I would imagine, are particularly motivated by money. So as this reward fund increases and increases, hopefully it starts applying pressure and giving some incentive to these people to speak up and share what they know or share what they've heard. Now I want to shift gears a little bit, and I want to talk about how Adam even got custody of Harmony in the first place, because that has been a big point of contention given his track record, his history, and all of his, prior acts and behavior. How did this guy get custody of this sweet little girl? And that's something that is weighing on everybody's mind. So let's talk about it. And before we get into the ruling itself and the judge who made this ruling, we're going to talk more about that history of Adam's and more information that recently also came to light regarding his history that's identified him as a suspect in an unsolved homicide. And as I was putting this list together, and I have put it in a timeline order from when the first occurrence happened all the way through current. As I was mapping this out and looking at it myself, there is just such a clear pattern here of escalation, and you're gonna see exactly why as we talk through this. And sorry guys, it's after the fact. I wish I would have made another graphic for you to follow along, but I think you'll be able to follow along easy enough. So at just 16 years old, Adam reportedly brought a weapon to school in Manchester and was charged with felony possession of a dangerous weapon on school grounds. First of all, what 16-year-old has a weapon? But second of all, what 16-year-old is bringing that weapon to school, and what were his intentions with that weapon? Was it to actually use it? Was it just to show off and look cool? In any event, a huge red flag. So about a year later, in July of 2007, Adam was then charged with burglary, simple assault, and curfew violation for being on the grounds of another school. He was also accused of following a girl into her home in Manchester. This was after he accused her of stealing his cell phone. And Adam had requested that another girl who he was with punch this girl in the face, which she did, apparently, with a closed fist, and he then entered a no contest plea to the burglary charge, and it was ultimately dismissed in 2008, just, 6 months later after the incident took place. Well then, a few months later, in September 2007, Adam was charged with criminal threatening after pulling a knife on a former girlfriend, who was just 15 years old at the time. Now, for this charge, his bail was revoked in March of 2008, and this was shortly after that other burglary charge was dismissed. And the next month, he ended up pleading guilty, receiving a year in prison, a portion suspended, and then probation ultimately. 3 weeks later, prosecutors made a motion to impose the suspended sentence, which was then later withdrawn, and a violation of probation, which charge was filed. So here we are. I mean, of course, Adam thinks he can get away with anything, right? Because he keeps getting away with everything, and he keeps escalating. First, he brings the weapon. Then he follows the girl into the house, has the other girl assault her and punch her. Then he pulls a knife on a former girlfriend. I mean, you can just kind of start to see the pattern as where it's growing, which is already worrisome enough, but also the fact that he is not being held fully accountable and the punishment is not fitting the crimes for those actions. In my opinion, he's going to not only continue to escalate, but he's also going to start getting cocky. And that's what I think happened. And we're not even done with his rap sheet. So let's continue here. So just 1 month later, after this incident with his former girlfriend and the knife and everything was dropped and the probation charge and all of that, just 1 month later, in May of 2008, Adam stabbed another teen in the leg and pushed him in front of a moving vehicle in Manchester. He was charged with first-degree assault and reckless conduct charges, both felonies. Now, this apparently stemmed from a reported drug ripoff. Apparently, Adam was buying drugs from this guy. He thought that the guy sold him fake drugs, and so that's what blew all of this up, making him stab him in the leg and then push him in front of a moving car. And the message I get from that is don't mess with Adam and his drugs, and don't get in the way of Adam and his drugs. That's the message I'm getting. So did Harmony get in the way of Adam and his drugs? Did Adam need to use Harmony to barter to get his drugs? Clearly, his drug use and his addiction is extremely important to him, and it turns him violent. Adam was ultimately released on $25,000 cash bail and told the court that he had no problem staying away from the victim. Okay, great. 25 cash bail, and now you're out, even though you are proving to be a danger over and over again. However, luckily, in January 2009, the sentence was amended and Adam went to prison for 383 days. So you would think, great, justice is served. Maybe he'll learn a little bit in prison. Maybe he'll come out the other side. Not Adam Montgomery, my friends. Not Adam Montgomery, because 5 years later, Adam went to a home in Massachusetts to score heroin and ended up shooting a man during this drug deal. Again, remember, drugs are very important to him apparently, and turns him very violent apparently. So the victim was shot in the chin and the bullet exited the man's left temple. Luckily, he survived. He was taken to the hospital and later recovered from this shooting, but it just illustrates again how violent Adam can be. Adam was charged with armed robbery, armed assault to murder, carrying a firearm without a license, and discharging a firearm within 500 feet of a building in Massachusetts. In September of 2014, he pled guilty to all of those charges and was sentenced to 18 months in prison. Again, personally, light sentence in my opinion, but I'm not here to argue that. That's just my opinion. Now, this all took place, and this drug deal gone bad and this shooting, just a few months after he and Crystal had started dating. And Crystal, for those of you who aren't familiar, that's Harmony's biological mother. So this happens just a few months after they started dating and after they ended up already conceiving Harmony, who was born in June 2014. So when Adam pled guilty and was ultimately sentenced to those 18 months in prison, at this point, Harmony was already born and was a couple of months old. So now when you're looking at like the total timeline coming across of all of his little acts, from bringing the weapon to school, following the girl into her house, threatening the knife on his former girlfriend, stabbing someone in the leg, shooting somebody, you can see a clear pattern of escalation. So now my question is, as he was escalating, did he then escalate to homicide, and was this an attempted homicide, and luckily this man survived? Or had he already previously escalated to homicide, and this was an attempted second victim? Because new information shows that that very well may have been the case. According to a knowledgeable law enforcement source, Adam is the suspect in an unsolved 2008 homicide of a man named, it's either Darlin Guzman. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. If you guys know, let me know. And this took place back again in 2008. So prior to this other attempted homicide when he shot this guy through the face. And Darlin, I'm just going to call him Darlin because I like that. Darlin was a computer repairman, and he was shot dead in a convenience store parking lot. So on February 10th, 2008, just before 11 p.m., police found Darlin, a 28-year-old, fatally shot in the parking lot of a convenience store. He had been shot in the chest, and while first responders rushed him to the hospital, he was ultimately pronounced dead. At the time of the murder, the police described the suspect as a light-skinned man in his 20s, about 6 feet tall, wearing a red hooded sweatshirt, and that he drove away in a Honda Accord. And according to law enforcement, Adam, along with 2 members of his family, have been the focus of this murder investigation almost since day one. Now, focus on what I just said there. Along with 2 members of his family have been the focus of this murder investigation, because it's revealed that Adam and 2 of his family members interacted with Darlin earlier that day and had agreed to meet up with him. That result, of course, then ended in gunfire and ultimately his death. But what I want to know is, who are those 2 family members? Who was he with? And another reason why Adam and these family members are a suspect is because Darlin's car was recovered days later in a cul-de-sac that was in the same direction near where Adam lived in New Hampshire, where he was living with his family at the time. At the time, Adam was just 18 years old, and he was already facing all of these other criminal charges in New Hampshire, but he was free on bail at the time of this murder. Because remember, all of those earlier things and those pocketed incidents in 2008 where he got probation and then he, it was a lesser sentence, he was free on bail. And allegedly, they believe, did this. So again, had he been held accountable properly and punished properly, could this tragedy have been avoided? Maybe. And although no motive has actually been given, Darlin's relatives say that he had planned to meet with Adam for an unknown reason. Maybe it was a drug deal. Maybe it was, selling some computer equipment or some tech, because we know he was a computer repairman. We don't know what that meeting was all about. But I find it very interesting that, again, 2 family members of Adam's were involved. And I'm not sure who these family members could be. If you guys know, let me know in the comments, but my mind is racing right now trying to figure it out, because then I'm also wondering about if there were family members tied to this incident, is that why nobody is speaking up now? Because they have to cover, because they're doing Adam a solid. I mean, the wheels are just turning. And again, I'm trying to kind of keep my mind straight on one path, but I can't help but wonder, guys, and I want to know what you think as well. Now, what I find really interesting is, while this news recently emerged about Adam being a suspect in this unsolved murder from 2008, the victim's sister spoke out, and her statement is, in my opinion, just so powerful. And she reacted to this news by calling Adam a monster and stressing, though, that the focus at this time shouldn't even be on her brother and the unsolved case, that it should be on finding Adam's missing daughter, Harmony. I feel like that is a pretty selfless statement and a pretty bold statement that comes from a good woman. I mean, to say, put my brother aside, find this child, I mean, it honestly, it fills me up with joy that people are actually thoughtful of other people, because I feel like we rarely see that these days. And I'm going to read one of her statements, and I'm going to read it as a quote because I want to just convey this in its entirety. And she says, "Our family is in shock and processing the news as best as we can. At this time, we are praying for the child involved, which is what caused the arrest. Although Adam is the person of interest in my brother's case, this monster's child is missing, and that is something that the news should really be focusing on. Finding her. My brother is gone and we know this, but where the whereabouts of this child still remain unknown, and that should be the priority." I mean, again, just such an easy moment for them to take the focus of this back onto this cold case of her brother, but not trying to do that, trying to keep the spotlight and keep the focus on this missing 7-year-old girl. To me, it's just huge. It's just huge. So again, we go back to his pattern coming across of all of these crimes, and there's clearly a pattern of escalating. There's live loss now, there's his daughter who's unaccounted for, a clear history of resorting to violence when drugs are in play, and he's in jeopardy of possibly losing his drugs, plus zero real punishments that fit the crime for his laundry list of crimes. So again, of course he's going to feel untouchable. Of course he's going to feel invincible. And we clearly see a clear pattern of escalation, starting from that bringing the weapon to school at just 16 years old, to possible murder at 19 years old, then to shooting somebody in the face and attempted murder at 24 years old. Boop, boop, boop. It's easy to follow the bouncing ball coming across. I mean, it just blows my mind that he has this kind of track record and was given custody of Harmony. So now let's shift gears once more and talk about that. I want to talk about how this monster with this rap sheet could ever possibly get custody of sweet little Harmony. Just a few days ago, New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu, I hope I'm saying that right, Sununu, yeah, slammed a Massachusetts judge for placing Harmony with her father and stepmother back in 2018, before the state could even complete a study of their home. And in a letter to the Chief Justice of Massachusetts, who is the highest court, this governor described Adam as a complete monstrous drug dealer, explaining that the 31-year-old's criminal background goes back to at least 2007. He asks why the Massachusetts courts went ahead and placed Harmony with him, and the governor also says that at the time the court ruled, New Hampshire's Child Protective Agency had asked Massachusetts for additional information to complete the home study and would have likely found the father unfit. Okay, guys, so at the time that the court made this ruling that Harmony was going to go full custody to Adam, at the same time, New Hampshire's Child Protective Agency had asked Massachusetts for additional information to complete their home study, which would have shown him as unfit, and he would not have gotten custody. The governor goes on to say it's unclear why the Massachusetts courts moved so quickly with this permanent placement prior to the completion of the home study. Why would the Massachusetts court choose to place custody of Harmony with this horrible individual? What caused such a fateful decision? And he's also requesting that the court review the decision and all of the events leading to the judge's ruling to figure out what the heck is going on here. And he says no child should ever leave Massachusetts in the custody of a dangerous criminal like Adam Montgomery. We must ensure that moving forward, at-risk children of our states are protected and adequately monitored. I mean, finally, somebody speaking out being like, hey, clearly this was a BS ruling. Why isn't this person being held accountable? What's going on here? And let's talk a little bit more about that judge, because recently a team over at 5 Investigates tracked down that Massachusetts judge, and he is under fire in this case, obviously, not only by obvious officials, but of course by the public as well. Sources told 5 Investigates that the judge's name is Mark Newman and that he retired in August 2019, just 6 months after he granted Adam custody of Harmony. Just 6 months later, he retired. And when people tried to reach out to him for comment, he, of course, did not respond and has not responded or made any single statements on this matter. But I can't help but wonder, first of all, why was that decision, again, so rushed if they were still waiting on pending information regarding that home study that would have shown him as unfit? Was it rushed because he was trying to clear his docket and clear his desk before he retired? Did he try to just shuffle things in a hurry because he was going to be out 6 months later? He retired just 6 months later, guys. So is he not going to be held accountable now? I mean, I have so many unanswered questions here. And a child welfare advocate also recently spoke out about this and said, this is an appalling decision. It should have been obvious that placing Harmony with her father would put her in harm's way. If anybody suggested that this child might be appropriately placed with a father that had a criminal record that included shooting somebody, they really need to have their head examined. Now, I think we can all agree on that. If you are a judge, if you are anybody who is making any sort of recommendations or rulings or whatever it is, if you see on paper that this person who is up for custody of a young child has a rap sheet that includes weapons, dangerous altercations, drugs, shootings, how on earth can you in good faith say, yep, check, that's the solid choice, that's where she should go live? Absolutely not, especially because she at that point had already been somewhat in the system and there would have been alternatives. And we now know too that the couple who had adopted Harmony's biological brother had actually inquired about adopting Harmony as well. But unfortunately, that was after Adam was already granted full custody. So it's like, there's just so many points over the last 10 to 15 years, really, where something could have been intercepted and done differently that I believe would have changed all of the outcome for where we are today. Whether it was Adam being held accountable and responsible for his earlier crimes and not giving him the means and opportunity to, commit any further crimes, whether it was the judge just taking that extra time to wait for the case review to then make a proper ruling. I mean, there are just so many different things that could have been done differently. And the hindsight's always 20/20. I get that, right? But in a case like this, it just becomes so frustrating because how did all of these different people fail along the way and ultimately fail this young child? That's the miss, and that's what has all of us, I think, just enraged at this point. Now that we know that Kayla, Harmony's stepmom, is parked in jail right now, and again, I believe she's cooperating. Maybe I'm wrong, but I believe she is. She's in jail on all of those welfare fraud charges. Well, just last week, or maybe it was the week prior, prosecutors dropped the welfare charge against Kayla, and that was for collecting the food stamps in Harmony's name, and then that charge was replaced with 3 other charges, including theft. So hopefully they're applying some more pressure to her, getting her to talk a little bit more, persuading her. We'll see. Only time will tell. Police say that they've now received 460 tips. However, there is still no sign of Harmony. And that reward fund, again, is up to over $150,000. Now, if we go back to what we talked about earlier in this video and what we talked about in the last video, the search of that property and potentially finding evidence that there was a cleanup that took place. Although you may have identified the crime scene or, God forbid, like the disposal cleanup scene. I mean, there's so many different options if there was forensic evidence found. Harmony still hasn't been found, and she could really be anywhere. We know Adam has ties to New Hampshire, to Massachusetts. There was recently all of this information that came out about car accidents that he was in, and so are those cars getting scraped for forensic evidence to see if there was DNA or anything like that in those vehicles? Because I believe it's one's in the impound. There's a lot of more information, and I feel like my gut is telling me, and I've said this before, although I would like to be a more hopeful person, my gut tells me that Harmony is no longer with us. So I don't think that we're up against a clock here for a rescue, which is good in the sense that we have the time and we have the luxury of time to figure out what happened before something detrimental happens, because I believe the detrimental activity and occurrence already took place. But where I was going with this is that it seems like week over week, we're getting these tiny, tiny shreds of new information. The car accidents, the suspect in the unsolved murder, the forensic evidence of a cleanup, little tiny things. And while they're not necessarily leading to Harmony, to her recovery or rescue, I do believe that we are going to get more answers as we go along. I think they're coming in very, very slowly, but I do think that we're going to get them, and it's just going to take time. And I'm hopeful that that big-ass reward fund is going to motivate some of those people that ran in that circle to talk and to share what they know. The more we keep talking about it, the more this case spreads, the more people are aware, and hopefully the more information and credible tips come in. So keep following along. I'm going to keep you guys updated. Every time I learn more, I'm going to try to press it into a video here to give you all of the consolidated information in one streamlined update. So make sure you check back. If you aren't subscribed, subscribe now so that you don't have to always be clicking and checking the channel, and so that you'll actually get notified when those updates happen. Again, I appreciate you guys taking the time to review this case with me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the coverage. Please don't forget, give this video a thumbs up on your way out to show support for the case, support for Harmony, and hopefully spread this so more answers are found sooner rather than later. All right, guys, until the next case, stay safe. Bye.